there's four main points that we're advocating for in this farm bill. And I'll explain a little bit about each one. In full transparency, if you ever want to deep dive on any of these further, Erin Foster West, who has been on these calls before, is our water director, and she's a great person to go to for this. She is in charge of this entire campaign. But the first thing that we're looking for is improving access to USDA conservation programs that are already in place. So namely, there is the EQIP program, that stands for Environmental Quality Incentives Program. And it's a big pool of money that's available to help farmers and ranchers improve their practices to be more drought tolerant, more climate conscious. The problem is, as things stands right now, though, there's a ranking system and a point system to be able to access those funds. And small scale farms, which many young and BIPOC farmers are operating under, can't compete with large commodity farms just because how the ranking system works, it doesn't favor small farms. So we're advocating for either a micro EQIP option or just a change to that program so that it's easier for folks who are young and BIPOC farmers who are farming the right ways, the ways we want to see people farm, to actually have access to this money. The second thing is we are wanting to ensure that current USDA resources and programs are culturally appropriate. So one thing that the USDA has is they have technical assistance where they can actually help farms and farmers to be able to improve their practices, to be more conscious to water usage, climate, et cetera. However, they're really focused on a very white-centric, commodity farm-centric, traditional approach to agriculture that isn't reflective of the way that many indigenous populations, farm worker populations farm. So like acequia users, for example, which are a large population of farmers in Colorado, the technical assistance just doesn't apply. And so we're wanting to see that changed. Additionally, we want to increase funding for research on equitable and sustainable land and water stewardship. So just putting more money towards those research projects. And then making more financial assistance available for young farmers and small scale farmers, again, through things like crop insurance, disaster relief programs that already exist. So that is the water side of things. Now, the land side of things is what I'm much more involved in as an organizer here at Young Farmers. We're currently in the middle of our 1 million acres campaign, which has been like a huge undertaking that's saying we want to secure 1 million acres of land from being developed and to stay in the hands of young and BIPOC farmers through legislation within this farm bill. So again, from our national survey, the greatest challenge to young farmers, regardless of where you are in the country, is land access. That includes the ability to buy, the ability to lease. I can speak from personal experience, just the immense difficulty that comes with trying to find land to farm if you do not come from intergenerational wealth or land ownership. And even if you do, the land transfer process currently in place is it's in shambles. So as you can see, 59% of young farmers say that finding affordable land is extremely challenging, which was like the highest you could rank on the survey. Additionally, a lot of people are unfamiliar with federal programs. They're so onerous to apply to. I recently applied for a micro loan from the FSA, which is supposed to be very easy. In fact, Secretary Tom Vilsack told me at a farm hearing I could walk in tomorrow and walk out with $50,000. And I would love to let him know it was actually a 3-month process for someone like me who is in this industry for work. So if that doesn't give you a clue into just how challenging it is to access these programs, yeah. The paperwork is very extensive. It's not culturally appropriate. Like, I could go on and on. So we have a 4-pager for policy asks. So if you want more nitty-gritty details, I can absolutely share that out. But these are kind of the main points that we're pushing for within this campaign. So we want better coordination of federal land access initiatives, and we actually are advocating for the establishment of a new office within the USDA that is just to get rid of all the overlap and redundancy and loopholes and pitfalls and all the things that make it difficult to access at the moment. We are working to eliminate inequities in land ownership and access. And one way we're doing that is we're advocating for a pre-approval process for USDA farm ownership loans. So right now, if you were to go to apply for a farm ownership loan with the FSA, you can't be approved on the loan until you have the property under contract, which means you have to know the person who's selling the land or you're not competitive. Which again, it keeps things in the a little bit of the good old boys club, where if you don't have a pre-existing relationship with a landowner, you're not going to be able to compete. So we're advocating for a pre-approval process so folks can be pre-approved just like any other person with a traditional loan. We also want to see continued investment in community-led farmland protection, and we had a huge win with the recent $300 million that was invested into the I forget the exact wording. There's been so many things recently, but it was towards this community land market production access, something like that. They invested $300 million, and we worked really hard and quickly to mobilize and respond. And we ended up supporting, I think, 17 BIPOC-led institutions to apply for that grant. Just like we hired grant writers and we got right to it. But what we want to show is that that shouldn't be a one-time investment. This should be ongoing support from the USDA to support the people that are already being creative and ingenuitive and showing how creativity and working together can make land access possible. We want to also support better farm transition, make that not such a difficult process, supporting farm viability for young farmers and farmers of color, and also investing in data collection, reporting, and research on all of the before mentioned things. So I know I just spit a whole bunch of different things at you, and trust me, like there's just a lot going on at Young Farmers, and it's all very exciting things. But I wanted to leave the majority of time open just for people to ask questions or for me to clarify points where people wanted to hear more. So I will just open up the floor, and I haven't checked the chat at all, so I will look at that as well. Yeah, Megan.
Hi, thank you for that. Just really inspired by y'all's work, and so excited to see you all charging again with this farm bill. It's really hopeful. My question about those research pieces is the intention that lives in ARS, the Agriculture Research Service? Like, is that where it has to live, or is there another place for it to live? Because I feel like all that data gets sort of manipulated and that, then we're again not getting to those outcomes. So what is the thought there about, where that research and that data collection lives in an equitable space?
Yeah, I think that's such a real question, Megan. And in full transparency, I don't have the answer right now in front of me. However, I know that all the policies we're advocating for, we have created in coordination, like with a ton of partners, like a Federation for Southern Cooperatives, Intertribal Ag Council, so on and so forth. And our policy team is definitely kind of in that space. It's something that I would be happy to reach out for you for, though, and to follow up with you on.
Thank you. And maybe if you reach out to Vanessa, I know she's so busy. She's also so awesome.
Yes,
yes. I don't want to invite people for you, Wendy, but wouldn't it be cool to have Vanessa come and when it's closer to when things are rolling and give us the skinny on how does Vanessa get into those rooms and make those asks? She is everywhere and she holds a lot of power. So just wondering if that would even be possible that we can learn from Vanessa's magic.
Yeah, Vanessa is great. I can second all the things you just said about her. She also went to the turkey pardoning and gotten in to meet. she's an amazing person. Yeah, but Megan, I will certainly follow up with you on that question.
Would you mind identifying her last name or Vanessa's last name?
Yeah, her name is it's Vanessa Polanco Garcia. I'm just looking in my Slack to get her full. Sorry, I mixed
up her bio in the chat, Evan.
Oh, thanks.
Vanessa Garcia Polanco.
Thank you. I have a question from Nourish Colorado on how individuals or organizations can get more involved and help best support this agenda.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. I would say the first thing is email me, and I'm gonna drop my email in the chat. But because there's a lot of opportunities to show up and in every way you can imagine. I mean, we've had presences at all the Farm Bill hearings, we host in districts. There's all different levels of advocacy and support. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, we'll do a phone to action campaign, like if something is really timely, and helping get the word out and getting people to message their senators. We do things like that. I think really it's just the sky's the limit. There's a lot of ways to be involved with limited capacity included. So I'll put my email in the chat, but yeah, I just encourage you to reach out, and I'd be happy to share things as they come along.
I have a question that's still baking in my mind, but I might as well ask it since we don't have a ton of time together. I guess it's a question for both you, Evan, and for Wendy, or for others who are familiar with setting Farm Bill priorities. I have one leg in the farming world and one leg in the Nourish Colorado world, and I'm interested in food, nutrition, incentives programs, and so on. And I'm wondering if either of you or anyone in this space has ever heard of an incentive for farmers through EQIP or other programs like the EQIP program or NRCS, where you get an incentive for selling your food to a food bank or supplying your food to a program like CNIP, Colorado Nutrition Incentive Program, for families using WIC or elders. Have you ever noticed whether EQIP or NRCS tracks the eaters of your food? So as someone who's applied for an EQIP grant recently, I was asked all kinds of questions about my growing practices, but I was asked no questions about where my food ends up. So I'm wondering if there's room to grow or an area to collaborate between the nutrition world and the farming world through this question of where our food ends up. So it may be something already exists. I'm sort of new to Nourish still, just hired in June. Do either of you have familiarity with that?
I could speak to that a little. Not that I have answers here, but I know from working with producers who are so thrilled by growing for that ultimate destination, increasing food access. I feel like this came up a bit at the recent CSU Food Summit, where with that conversation on forward contracting with the FPAG Food Pantry Assistance Grant. A lot of producers were sort of suggesting, if producers could apply for that grant, use that funding to grow product directly for a food pantry, that could simplify some steps. But I'm sure others on this call could speak a lot more eloquently on that.
Mickey, this is Megan. I know the blueprint was going to run that, the build for the forward contracting. So I would definitely ask Greta and Joelle if they plan to add any other existing language, right? Are they just going to do the forward contracts? Are they thinking about expanding whom can participate as a grantee? And then my second thought was, does TFAP, is the TFAP program an incentive is that an incentive program currently? I know it's kind of just, sorry, I get it. I get the TFAP. It's kind of garbage. But wasn't there an incentive, a talk about incentive for TFAP? Do you guys remember? I know all the nutrition people are asking for more money for TFAP, and that there's that, like, USDA TFAP channel, but I don't know if that goes outside of commodities.
I'll make note to look into that, Megan, and I just want to read aloud what Wendy wrote too. Wendy says, and I am not aware of anything quite like this, but I like the idea of using existing mechanisms or programs to better connect nutrition goals with farm support goals. Cool. If anyone else is also interested in that and wants to DM me for further conversation, I'd be so game to talk more.
Feeding America, get with Sarah at Feeding Colorado, and I think Feeding America might have, but they're narrow in their scope there, but I think that they would be willing to expand that conversation.
I have a separate question, if that's okay, based on the land campaign points, the very first one on coordinating federal land access initiatives. Would you mind just explaining that a little bit more and what that entails?
Yeah, I'm looking right now for my link to our policy document so that I can share that with y'all. Here we go, I've got it. So we're looking for more oversight at the USDA to just ensure better coordination between departments, because there's a lot of different things going on. There's so many programs and agencies, and the staff working together, like what they see. And again, I'm not a policy expert with young farmers, I'm an organizer, but from my understanding of it on like my level, the goal is to make equity more centered in the USDA by having an oversight committee that coordinates among all the different things that are going on and make sure that they're working towards the common goals of more equitable access for folks. And I'm going to share the link to this 4-pager as well in the chat. It's like the more nitty-gritty policy things.
Evan, do you know if that will include like some of the asks? Because the asks happen across the board with acreage requirements, right? Will that address like a systemic acreage requirement shift?
Can you say more, Megan? I'm not sure I understand.
Well,
your
to your
question.
point of equip and like, how many acres do you have and point systems and not qualifying for certain programs if you don't have a certain number of acres, that dumps you out of qualifying for some programs. So that really is definitely an equity issue for smaller and beginning farmers.
Yeah, no, to your point, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know that the equip is a main point of focus. Are there other programs in particular you're thinking of off the top of your head that have an acreage-based system requirement? I know equip is of primary focus for the water campaign because that's one of the best routes of access to funds to deal with water issues that is currently like cut off from folks.
I'll have to go back through my notes around acreage requirements. However, there are several programs that require a minimum number of acres in order to participate.
Yeah.
Across all programs in USDA. So that's just an inherent systemic barrier.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for raising that. And as far as I know for the water side of things, EQIP is the focus right now. We actually got a marker bill from Senator Bennett last Farm Bill for a micro EQIP program. And unfortunately, it got dropped. So we're hoping to push for that this time and see it through.
Well, let us know how we can help. For sure, PLC and ARC. Yeah, because they're commodity risk management programs. I'm just reading off the chat for those who are listening in by phone, and those are both air quotes risk management. So basically payments for crop loss or other components that could be a risk for a farm.
Yeah, and I think that falls under the final point on the water campaign of making like disaster relief and things more accessible to young and BIPOC farmers who typically fall under the category of small farmers as well. Just being mindful of the time, I just want to preemptively say thank you to everyone for allowing me to present. And yeah, if you're ever curious where there are intersections between, you know, anti-hunger work and the food sphere and Farm Bill with the farmer side of things, like I am happy to talk more. And if I don't know the right answer, there's someone on my team who does. I'm very fortunate to work with young farmers. It is a really amazing organization. And yeah, I know that there's going to be lots of ways to plug y'all into supporting and being involved if that's of interest as we move forward. So thank you all.
Thank you, Evan. I just really appreciate young farmers and all you all do to increase the progressive farming voice that is so important within that conventional farming voice that is so big in the Farm Bill work. I am just constantly in awe of the work you all are doing and grateful for you as an individual as well. Thanks for being part of the FBAT today.
Okay, great. Well, thanks
Okay.
everyone. Oh, sorry.
Thank
Wendy.
you all for being, I came back to the English channel.
Okay. I
Sorry.
wasn't sure.
Thank you all for being here. I hope you saw my link, my chat in there as well. Thank you all for sticking with it. Evan, thank you so much for doing this. That was a great exercise for me, by the way, to follow that in Spanish. It was awesome. And when I could follow the questions, I was like, yay, Wendy. So thank you, Evan. This is so great. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for sticking with it. We're going to start off 2023 with a whole new calendar invite, whole new link, all the new things, whole new schedule. So please be on the lookout for that in 2023. In the meantime, have a wonderful winter everything. Welcome to winter. Welcome to the winter light. I hope you all take some time to really nestle up and rest, and look for some new information about FBAT in 2023 and new links coming in the new year. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Evan.